Ladies and gentlemen, please, a warm round of applause for Kim Gamez.
So no hard feelings out there for the other virgins. This is my first storytelling event, but you'll find out I am not anything close to a virgin. You'll hear in my story. And I can't see any of you, so this is great. So my story started back in 2000. I was in beauty school, and I remember I was standing behind this little old lady, like you do, like every cosmetologist in beauty school, doing a perm roller. So I'm perm rolling her hair, and I start to think, because perm rolling takes 4 hours to do, and so I'm thinking, and I kept thinking, I don't want to be standing behind a chair and making money for someone else. See, I was raised by entrepreneurs, and so I don't know what it's like to have a weekend off or to have parents home every night, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go to business school, and I'm gonna own my own salon. Yeah, sounded like a good idea at the time. So I went back to school, and I needed a part-time job because I was just cutting hair out of my house. And through a friend of a friend, I met a gentleman named Hugo. And see, Hugo plays a big part in my story. Hugo was born and raised in Mexico. And see, he needed an English tutor because when he was in Mexico, his family, there's 12 siblings, and he was in medical school in Mexico. His family had ran out of money to send him to school, and so he moved to the States to send money home so his other brothers and sisters could be whatever they wanted. Well, it was his turn to go back to college, and he needed to take his English proficiency exam, and he needed an English tutor. And I speak English, right? So I found it sounded like a great job for me. Now, mind you, Hugo's like a 5 foot and some change, totally not my type kind of guy, so we're not going there. But I remember every night we would go over there and he would tell me stories about, the way he was raised, the stories of his traditions, his culture, things that from a girl from Jackson, which I didn't hear you say anything about Jackson, people, but from a girl from Jackson, I didn't have any of that. And so at that time, I made the Hispanic culture my own. And I remember every time I'd go over there, Hugo would say, one night I walked over there and he said, "Kim, do you want to be my girlfriend?" And I go, "No. I'm here to teach you English. I do not want to be your girlfriend. If you ask me again, I'm not coming back again." And so it just became like an inside joke, and he kept asking and asking, but he graduated my class, and a couple years later, I got married. And so I never opened my salon, but my husband's family at the time had always wanted to own a restaurant. And my parents were entrepreneurs in the fact that they owned a real estate firm and that they had come across this restaurant for a deal and said, you know what, you can follow your family's dream and open this restaurant. So we started this Mexican-American restaurant in downtown Jackson. Right after I got married, I found out I was pregnant. We put an offer in and bought the restaurant that summer. We hadn't opened yet. So now I'm 20 years old. I know. Can you believe it? 20 years old, I'm pregnant, and I just bought a restaurant. Not really bought a restaurant. They think they sold it to my land contract because they just had to get rid of it. Did you know that Michigan Liquor Control, you can have a liquor license when you're 18? You can. You can legally sell alcohol, but you can't consume it. Can you imagine how hard that was, like making our bar menu? I had no problem making our bar menu. So it was in October, and we were supposed to open in October. We were waiting for the liquor license. And I'm huge pregnant. I was due in December. And I remember praying night after night, God, let me have this baby because I cannot open a restaurant and have a baby at the exact same time. And months came and went. And in December, I gave birth to my son. And he was airlifted from Jackson to Mott's Children's Hospital. And he had a 30% chance of life, and he wasn't supposed to survive. And we were there for many, many, many weeks. And thank God that God didn't answer my prayers because we weren't open, and we were able to spend every single day with him. But you know what? Those guys are smart in Ann Arbor because we got released with our son, and we brought him home. And just a couple days later, guess what we got? The letter in the mail, Liquor Control approved us. And so a couple weeks later, I'm 20, a new mom, and we opened our restaurant. How hard can it be, right? I had no idea what we were doing. I thought, hey, it'll be fun. I'll get to drink underage and, all this stuff, and I'll be cute. And no, it's anything but. Everyone knows, even if you don't work in a restaurant, you know how hard it is, how hard a restaurant is. We ran out of rice and beans every single day. We'd put notes up on the doors, please come back, but we promise, please come back. We're out today, but come back tomorrow. So we did that for a couple years. So we have our business and our son. And a couple years later, we decide business is good. My parents are in real estate. Let's do what they do and start buying rental properties. Okay. So we start buying rental properties. Again, I have no idea what I'm doing. I moved from my mom's house, and I got married, and I moved in with my husband. I never had even rented anywhere before. And so I just listened to myself and listened to my parents and did a lot of research, and I thought, we can do this. And guess what? I had another baby. I had Max. So now we have 2 babies and 2 businesses. So a couple years go by, and it's 2009, and another restaurant comes for sale in Jackson. And we've got this restaurant thing under control. We've been named now Small Business Person of the Year in Jackson and all these great things, and business is going good. I finally figured it out. I still don't know how to be a mom, and I definitely don't know how to be a wife. But I got the restaurant under control. Let's do another restaurant. So, I know, right? So we buy another restaurant, and if anybody has 2 kids, you'll understand. I always said if you can have 2 kids, you can have 10, because 2 kids, it's like they both have to cry at the same time. They both want you at the same time. That's the same thing with 2 restaurants. So when somebody was short-staffed, the other restaurant was short-staffed. Or when there was a snow day in Michigan, no one's going to restaurants, it affects both restaurants. And so it was just constant. And I remember it was our 2nd year in. Oh, wait, I left out an important piece. We closed on our restaurant, and a couple months later, oh yeah, Kim had a baby again. So I have now, that's my daughter Penelope. So 3 babies and 3 businesses, and I cannot balance life. Life is so busy. I'm being pulled. I still don't know how to be a mom. I still don't know how to be a wife. I think I was doing a pretty good job of being a wife, but I did not know really what I was doing, and I could not make my life work. That year, I lost my dad, and I literally felt like, I can't do this too. I can't. And later that winter, I'm still struggling with the loss of my dad. And Michigan winters caused our pipes to freeze in the restaurant, okay? So we had space heaters going to thaw the pipes. Did you know if you put a space heater too close to the water heater, it can combust? So we had a very small fire. But what that means when you have a very small fire, that you have to be out of business for maybe a week. And when you're out of business for a week in a restaurant, you have to do almost a grand opening again because you're now out of stock, your staff has booked on you, and I just could not take it. And I remember praying that night, I don't know what you're trying to teach me. I don't know what you want me to do. And that next day, I get this knock at the restaurant door when we're cleaning up the mess. Hey, I heard you had an incident here. Would you want to sell? And I looked at him and I go, oh my God, did God come to you last night? And so, no, for real. And so I said, yes, I don't care how much it is. I don't care if I have to bring money to the table. I cannot do this right now. So 3 businesses, 3 babies, and you'd think we learned to not do another business. But no, my husband was like, yeah, the rentals are easy. Let's buy an apartment complex with the money that we made from the sale and the money we invested, And I go, okay, that sounds easy. Oh, no. Okay, if you can be a landlord and you can own a restaurant, you can do anything. I promise. And just a couple months, I'm not kidding, I had my daughter, Gabby. You can't make this up. I promise you, you can't. You can't make this up. But now we only have 3 businesses, but we had 4 and 4 babies. So my husband is Hispanic, and I'm not sure if any of you have ever been to a true Hispanic celebration, but there is this part of the culture that I have found to be my favorite. It's called the Padrino tradition. And so when you're at a party, I always joke that it's so amazing because the food's great and the dancing is beautiful and the tequila is obviously great and works. It's magic. But it's this feeling you get when you're there, this feeling of community and coming together, this feeling that you get when you have padrinos. And so a Spanish lesson for you today. Padrinos is a Spanish term for godfather or sponsor. So in a typical American wedding, a typical wedding, Hispanic families will reach out to everyone that they know to help pay for things like the dress, the venue, the bar, everything. Because it's about the community coming together to put on the event. It's all about that, the selflessness, the giving to others when you have little to give yourself. It's all about being true to yourself. And that's why I fell in love with the Hispanic culture way back when. And so I remember my husband was in the living room, and I was in my office, and the kids, imagine running around. And he said, hey, we got a call. My niece wants to know if we'll be padrinos for her quinceañera, or her 15th birthday. And because I love it, I was like, sure, what does she need? And so until today, there was only one way of getting and organizing these padrinos or sponsors. It was a handwritten list. So he's listened to the list and yelling across the room at me. And I'm like, don't do the dress. It's too expensive. Do the pillow. Let's do the pillow. Because the quinceañera kneels on the pillow in church that matches her dress. And I thought, this will be great. So I go, well, what color's her dress? I got to get the pillow to match the dress. And in typical male fashion, he goes, blue. Come on now, blue? I'm like, what? Oh, what kind of, what shade of blue? Like navy blue? And so I blame this on the damn pillow because I said, I'll just send her the money. But wait a minute, she's in Mexico. So she was a 14-year-old girl on the phone. So she had to get her parents on the phone. I had to figure out a wire transfer money, and it was just this big hassle. And as an outsider, when he got off the phone, I said, honey, I love this part of your tradition. I love it. I love everything about it, but I hate the process. And in that moment, because I'm an entrepreneur and that we get that bug, that whole ding idea, well, I'm kind of crazy and I can't stop until I make sure that no one else in the world is doing it. And so I go, oh my gosh, there's no one doing this. And there are hundreds, if not thousands of people wanting to know how to organize their padrinos. And so I said, what if we had it so our users, so we had an app, and the users were able to create this registry, but kind of morphed with a crowdfunding page, and that they could give and receive everything they want in the party, and then the host, the money would just go in their account. And he goes, well, wouldn't that be nice? And I was like, yeah, it would. Let's figure out how to do it. So last year, I'm a non-technical. I don't know one thing about coding, software. I mean, I think it's all just sometimes I just want to throw my computer through the wall, probably like most of you. And I thought, I need to surround myself with real smart people. So where'd I go? Ann Arbor. And I know, I'm from Jackson, so I'm like, I need to be around real smart people. I need to go where they talk this talk. So I go to Ann Arbor, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I start, meeting people and researching, and they said, you should go to this event called Accelerate Michigan. I don't know if anybody of you heard of Accelerate Michigan. Thousands of people apply to this event every year. Startup companies, these tech companies or, whatever kind of companies, startup companies. They go and they pitch, and I thought, I'm gonna have to get investors, I think. I should go and watch these people. So I go and I sit, because I'm the only woman there, which is sad but true. And I'm just watching all these people, pitch. And I thought, gosh, I can do this. Maybe if I actually build this, I'll pitch here someday. So that was in 2016. So in January, I said, yep, I can do this. Let's invest every penny we have left to try to see if this will work, because this will make us a hell of a lot more money than that restaurant selling tacos. So let's just try to do this. So over the years, I've learned that I can build pretty good teams. That's why we've been able to stay afloat, because I just am really real with my employees and with my customers. And I thought, I can do this. So I put together a great team. We started building the platform in January. We launched in June. And I had this goal of 500 users last year. That was kind of my imaginary goal, because I had no idea who was going to use it. And we had 50,000 people use our site last year. Yeah. And that Accelerate Michigan competition, I thought, I'll apply. I'll get my feet wet, for when I'm really good at this and I really want to win some money, because they give hundreds of thousands of dollars away. And I applied, and I couldn't believe I was picked. There was 30 companies picked out of the, over 1,000. And I actually won $100,000 at Accelerate Michigan. I remember I was sitting there and I was listening to the other pitches, and there was literally a rocket scientist there. And I'm like, I'm creating like an event app like that helps people. Like, I'm totally out of my league. So when they called my name, I was like, oh, no, you didn't. I'm not supposed to do here. So are you wondering something about I started another business? Yeah. So January, we invest every penny that we have. Every penny. I asked Grandma for money because I'm like, this is great. I will totally return your money. I found out I was pregnant again. I know. It was awful. I mean, I have a beautiful third daughter now. She's beautiful, but I cried like for weeks on end. How am I going to do this? I'm already one of, in this ocean of men pitching to investors. Now they're going to see this baby bump, and they're going to say, how is she going to do this? But you know what? I did it because, who cares? So we did it. And you know what? I'm a proud mama of 5. Thanks. So I guess, my story, if there's one thing that I can tell everyone, you really just have to listen to yourself. You got to have that. I kept saying, you think I'm crazy. You have to have that crazy, but to make that leap. Because a lot of you have that $1 million idea in the head, but you're not crazy enough to do it. But you have to be a little bit crazy. You have to listen to yourself. You have to just treat your employees and your customers like gold, because they're the ones that will actually make your product and, make you successful. Yeah. And if anybody's wondering about Ugo and where he fits into all of this, Ugo and I have been married, happily married, for the last 17 years. And without him, none of this would have been possible. So, thank you guys.
Gamez.